Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team, 104.5theteam.com, and let's do it. Coach Herm Edwards with us for the first time, and he's going to be joining us every Monday at 5:15. But you know what? Just to kick it all off, Coach said, I want to come on this week with you guys, have a good time on Friday, so that's what we're doing. Thanks to McLean Food Service, McLeanCo.com. They're the reason why we were able to have on Coach Herm Edwards. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Another week of football. Saw a game last night with Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and with all the news coming out of Baltimore in the National Football League, you got to tip your hat to the Baltimore Ravens. Home game against a division opponent, did a fabulous job of getting a win under their belt. And if you're Pittsburgh right now, and I know Mike personally, Tomlin, you got to be a little bit concerned of your defense and your offensive inability to score points. I mean, since the half of last week, they've only they scored 6 points in defensively. They're giving up about 170 yards a game rushing.
How difficult is it for a coach, John Harbaugh, to keep his team focused with the media circus going on around?
Well, it's difficult if you don't have a veteran group. And he's got a veteran group. He's got some good guys in the locker room. And sometimes when things happen, whether in life or in football, and especially in football a lot, there's this thing of, you know what, we're going to get in a cocoon right now, and we're not going to pay attention to what's happening outside. And it brings you closer together. So I think this team, along with the city, the city feels the same way too. I mean, they feel like they've been attacked as well, and rightly so. But here again, I think it brings you together, it galvanizes your team, and it showed up last night.
Herm, when you were a coach, listen, if you didn't agree with a player, regardless of anything else, you'd sit him down. What would a guy like Ray Rice have to do to get another chance to be on a team you were coaching?
Well, I think obviously he's going to have to go through, the progression of obviously getting some help for him and his wife. And I think time always heals. I always want players to be forthright, tell the truth. And I think for the most part, I don't know, I wasn't in the room, the conversations that Ray was having with the commissioner or the Baltimore Ravens. But I think at times when you have a guy that's got a pretty clean slate, you don't try to uncover everything. It's almost like your children. You sit there and you tell your children, okay, tell me the story. And then they tell you the story, and then 10 minutes later you say, now I want the truth. Because if not, I'm going to find out. So just, tell me the truth. So when I get ready to make this decision, I can make the right decision the first time. But I think a year will pass, and Ray will be, he'll have another chance to play in the league.
Herm Edwards on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports, brought to you by McLean Food Service and McLeanCo.com. Coach, we've had this debate all week, and yesterday we saw a local individual here in Albany, a local sports fan, walking through a Target parking lot with the Ravens' Ray Rice jersey on. Last night at the game, a lot of fans wearing the Ray Rice jersey. If you're an NFL fan, is it okay to wear a Ray Rice jersey right now?
Well, I think this is America, and everyone has different opinions on things and topics. Obviously, this domestic violence, I think the good thing maybe we get out of this is that now people that are not aware of domestic violence and what it looks like, we have a picture of it. We got a front line seat of this is what it looks like. And if you just close your eyes and imagine if that was your daughter. And I think when you open your eyes, you go, you know what? Not only is this shouldn't be tolerated, we got to look at our laws and say, our policies maybe ought to be, looked at and maybe changed, because domestic violence in this country happens every day, and women are a big part of being battered, and it doesn't look pretty.
Coach, you player, coach, you've been asked to speak to the rookies, to teach them how to act. What do you see happening to Roger Goodell on this? The guy who's been heavy-handed with punishments, does he keep his job?
Well, I'll put it this way. I mean, his job is obviously as a leader, you exhaust your ability to gather information, and somewhere, somehow, for them to not to see the tape, that is just a failure to communicate with inside your organization, because you have to see the tape. There's no doubt about it. If that tape was sent to the office, and let's say you didn't see it, then the chain of command is broken somewhere. Now, if you viewed the tape, obviously, and you're not forthright, then you got a big problem. Now, I don't know where that stands right now. I think Mr. Goodell will keep his job, as far as I know. The league made an error. The Ravens made an error in the beginning. and now we're talking about it, and it shows you. You know, when you're in position to lead, you have to make sure that you have gather all the facts. As I said earlier, you exhaust yourself to make sure you get those facts. So when you do make a decision, you never have to worry about coming back and changing it.
Herm Edwards with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team, 104.5theteam.com. He will be joining us weekly on Mondays at 5:15. Thanks to McLean Food Service. He's with us today previewing this weekend's of games just for the fun of it, just having a good time. All right, Coach, let's talk some football because when we look at the New York Giants last week against the Lions, or on Monday night, I should say, Herm, is there a point where Tom Coughlin looked out on that field and said, maybe I shouldn't have changed this offense? I mean, it looked bad, didn't it?
Well, yeah, but here again, these are the growing pains of an offense, and I think we knew this going in. I said it last week. I was on a bunch of shows and they said, what do you think the Giants going to look like? I said, they're going to look the same way they looked in the preseason. Nothing's going to change. And I think, if anything, their defense has to hold the fort for about a month so they can get this thing worked out. And I think this week they'll play a little bit better because these guys are prideful guys. They got some good players there. But the problem they have, in my opinion, right now is that, you know, and I'm just saying this, and I'm not saying it in a negative way, but when you look at the players they have on offense, who scares you when they break the huddle?
Victor Cruz has to be the biggest name, right?
Cruz is a fabulous player. You know, and Jenkins is a good runner, and I'm not saying they have good players, but if Calvin Johnson breaks the huddle, are you nervous?
You know where he is.
I want to know where he lines up, okay?
Right.
You know, Cordell Patterson from Minnesota Vikings, all of a sudden you're concerned where 84 is at now. Ooh, where's the guy at? In football, you know, there's got to be a concern when you break the huddle. And no one's scaring you. The quarterback doesn't scare you because you go, he's a pocket guy. He's not going to leave the pocket to throw, okay? So that doesn't scare you. He's going to be in the pocket. If they don't protect him, you can get to him. So this is why precision in this offense is vital. Because you don't have a guy that can scare you. You better be very precise in offense. You got to get the ball out of your hand. You got to get it to them when they're running to catch it, and then this offense gets going. But if you're playing the way you're playing right now, boy, it's not pretty.
How long does this thing take? They have the Cardinals this weekend, and then they have the Texans, and then the Falcons and Eagles within the next 3 weeks after that. Do we just chalk all those up as losses until they figure out what their offense is and what their identity is and how to do it?
I wouldn't say losses, but I would say this. You know, I always tell people the first, and that's just not the Giants. It's everybody, guys. It's just the fact that they're going through a new system, and, you know, do all the players fit the system? That has a lot to do with it, too. And if not, then you got to tweak the system some. It reminds me of when you buy a new home. You buy a home and you have all this nice furniture, and you put it in the living room, you know, and about the second day, you're walking by the living room, and your wife says, yeah, you know that couch? We need to move it over here. I don't like it sitting there. And the lamp, we got to move it. And that picture on the wall, so you start changing. And that's what happens to you as a football team. The first month, you got some new players, you got some older players, you got a new system. You're trying to figure it all out because in the preseason, you know, you really don't get to figure it out because these guys don't play together. They play together maybe 25, 30 snaps at the most in the preseason game. And now all of a sudden you're playing a whole game. And now you got a game plan. You got to get in football. You know, a lot of these guys aren't in football shape either, to be quite honest. So all these things are a part of it.
Coach, we're going to the other New York team. You know, as a guy who was a corner in the league for years, how hard is it for Antonio Allen to switch from safety to corner? I've seen it go the other way, but never this way.
Very difficult because you first of all, the way you enter plays are entirely different. When you're a safety, you're always running inside out. When you're a corner, you're always coming from outside in. Your sight angles are a lot different. You know, when you're a corner, you're basically to a third of the field, and you know you always have the boundary to help you. When you're a safety, you're always in the middle of the field, and you basically have more ground to cover. You know, the way you tackle, the angles, all these things, not alone cover-wise, because you're not a cover guy. I mean, you're a cover guy, but you don't play outside the numbers a lot, covering those type of guys. So it takes a skill set. You can help him. You can do certain things to roll over the top of him. But to put him there, it says a lot about his skill set, that he's a good enough athlete that coach feels like, hey, if I give him some help, he can handle the position. Coach,
the Bills were able to beat the Bears. They looked really good, like the game plan. Sense of urgency around the organization with Terry Pegula coming in as the potential new owner. Is this a playoff year for the Bills?
Well, I don't know if it's a playoff year, but if they continue to run the ball like that, they're gonna be in games. They really are, because I think when you look at them defensively, they got a nice front. They can do some things there. This was a big win for them, because you're right. They struggled in the preseason. I mean, badly. So much that they went and got Kyle Orton to really threaten E.J. Manuel and say, hey, man, you just keep turning this ball over, you're done. And so they go to Chicago, basically play an offense that's, pretty good. I mean, can really light it up and force Jay Cutler to throw off his back foot and do some interceptions. But more than that, they attacked the defense that really brought in a lot of players. You think about Jared Allen in Houston. They really rebuilt this defense. Well, it didn't look so rebuilt to me against, at home against the Buffalo Bills. So if they can continue to run the ball and not ask E.J. Manuel to throw it a lot, then they got a chance.
Herm Edwards, thanks to McLean Food Service on 104.5 The Team. All right, Coach, when you look at the games this weekend, after 1 week in the NFL, what game are you looking at? What game are you excited to watch this weekend?
Well, there's a couple. Obviously, Philly and Indianapolis is an interesting football game in the fact that you got two high-powered offenses. Indy loses at Denver. At Denver, and Philly's going in. We had a big comeback win last week. But I think if you're a team right now that's 0-1, well, you don't want to go 0-2. You really don't. Not saying you're not out of it. You're out of it, but you don't want to go 0-2. I think the Saints, that becomes a big game for the Saints all of a sudden. They're traveling, and so it's going to be very interesting all of a sudden for some teams that we looked at early in the season and said, hey, by the way, we think this is a playoff team. And now all of a sudden you're 0-1 to go 0-2. Not a lot of football, but 0-2, boy, you don't want that kind of start.
He's Herm Edwards on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. He will be joining us every Monday at 5:15 weekly. You just got your preview today of what that'll be sounding like. Herm Edwards, thanks to McLean Food Service. And Levack, you and I got to go to McLean Food Service. It is a 120-year-old company with no debt. It's an awesome company. Their drivers love working there. They take out two-day routes per week, and they average first-year pay of over $60,000. They're looking for drivers experienced with 50,000 miles and a safe driving record. If that sounds like you, contact them today, McLeanCo.com. And Levack, you and I both know it's a great company. Coach, thank you so much for your time today, and we will talk to you on Monday at 5:15, sir.